Hey, everybody, it is Mike Petraglia, Trags, and welcome to the season opening edition of the Jungle Roar postgame pod, along with Richard Skinner of Local 12 in Cincinnati. This Jungle Roar podcast, as always, is brought to you by the great folks at Prize Picks, as well as All Good Home Improvements and the great people at CLNS Media. Bengals win a heart-pounding, heart-stomping, whatever you want to call it, a thriller, 17-16 here at Huntington Bank Field on the shores of Lake Erie. 17-16, the Bengals win it. They're 1-0. And Skinny, second straight year the opposition has scored 16 points against the Bengals in the season opener. But this time, this difference between the 16-10 loss to New England and a 17-10 win over the Browns here this afternoon is the Bengals flipped the script on turnovers. They were lost at 2-0 last year and lost the game 16-10. Today, two very important interceptions. They win the turnover battle 2-0 and win their first game of the year. What did you think, Skinny? What were some of your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, a couple of them, Mike. I think first and foremost, I think you have to treat it, a win is a win. I mean, the whole narrative of this team has been slow starts, can't get off to a slow start. Was it ugly? Sure. I mean, 141 yards of total offense, minus 18 yards in the fourth quarter, one first down in the second half. But the defense kind of settled in, and the last six Browns drive ended in interception, turn it over on downs, a punt, a missed field goal. Listen, the Browns helped here too a little bit.
No question.
Both interceptions were off receivers' hands. There was a missed extra point, and then there was the missed field goal. But then the other two drives were an interception at the end of the game, and the defense really settled in and did its job. I think for the two narratives, one being, how do you overcome the slow start? They did that. They're 1-0. That's what really matters. Number two, this was a defense that was awful in the preseason, coming off a season last year where it wasn't very good either. And you're thinking, oh boy, what's this defense going to look like? Was it dominant? No. Was it playing great offense? No. But it did what it had to do and was opportunistic. And I think that's a nice place to start because of this. This offense is going to get its act together. This is maybe the one or two off that Joe Burrow doesn't play well. The offense doesn't do what it normally does. And so you just chalk it up to that, and yet you won. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this is you won. And that kind of gives you, I think, a chance. I think Zach said it pretty good in the post-game press conference. It feels good to be 1-0, having to go make the corrections we're going to make. And I think that's the case. I mean, would you rather they come up here and hung 30 on Cleveland and lost 33-30? No, give me the ugly win, if you will.
Oh, no question. And, inside, let's break down the defense, first of all, because I think that's one of the big reasons they won the game. Jamar Chase said that after the game. It was interesting. I spoke to Logan Wilson after the game, and he said there was a calmness and a resolve and a sense that they were going to get the job done, not necessarily win the game, but get the job done series to series. There was no yelling and screaming, and I don't know if that is a shot at last year's defense run by Lou Anarumo or not. But he said there was a difference he could sense in this game between what he experienced last year and what took place, at least for four quarters here on Sunday. DJ Turner said the same thing. He said that there was a vibe, an energy, if you will, on the sideline with the defense. And I think the reason that's important is when the Browns made a play or two or strung together 2 or 3 first downs, you didn't see the defense running all over the field. It looked like they were able to make adjustments much more quickly today.
Yeah, and there wasn't there were hardly any big plays. I mean, nothing over the top that the Browns did. They didn't run it very well. 49 yards, 2.0 per carry. So you got them in some down and distances.
That may have stunned me the most. Not to interrupt you here, Skinny, but I think them gaining only 49 yards of total offense, given what Nick Chubb has done to this team over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. And now Nick Chubb is in Houston, of course, and they only had Jerome Ford and help me out, the
Dylan Sampson.
And Dylan Sampson, who led them, by the way, if I looked at 12 carries, 29 yards. That was their leading rusher. If you told me that coming into the game, Skinny, I would have said the Bengals in a runaway.
Well, and for a while, it was death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? I mean, the opening drive for Cleveland took almost 10 minutes off the clock. They ran 16 plays, only picked up 58 yards on the touchdown drive. some penalty yardage too. But then there was the opening drive of the second half where they took 7:40 off the clock. And I think if you're going to play that style of defense, and maybe it was just for this particular game where you're going to give them some things and force them to string together drives, if you're going to do that and win the turnover battle or force a couple of takeaways a game, I think that's the formula for success. Is this ever going to be the top defense in the NFL? Of course not. But if you make the other team have to string together plays, because I mean, at times, Mike, if you just watch this game, you were thinking as a fan, they're never going to get a stop. They can't get off the field. And you look up at the end of the day and they only have 16 points because, again, a missed field goal certainly helps, but you got the takeaways and you didn't allow big explosive plays to happen. And so I think it was a nice formula. I think it was a nice recipe for what Al Golden had in store today.
And in fairness, they also got the benefit of back-to-back drops. Joe Flacco threw a pair of really good passes on the series before, I believe, or 2 series before the missed field goal.
Yeah.
The Browns had 4th and 4, I believe, at the Cincinnati 39, and Joe Flacco over the middle, off the receiver's hands.
Would have been a first down.
4th and 4, right over the middle, off Jerry Jeudy's hands. Jerry Jeudy helped the Bengals out a lot here on Sunday because it was Jordan Battle's interception, the first Bengal interception of the day, that went off Judy's hands and into Jordan Battle's hands, and set up the go-ahead, what proved to be the game-winning field goal for Evan McPherson.
Yeah, they had 1 first down in the second half, Mike, the Bengals did, and it came right after that interception of Battles, and it got them into further range to allow Evan to kick a 35-yarder. So if you're only going to pick up 1 first down in the half, that was sure as heck a good time to pick one up. But, yeah, Jerry Jeudy helped them a little bit with some drops and one of the deflected interceptions to Jordan Battle. And listen, are you going to always get those bounces of the ball? No. And again, I'm not asked. This defense is not going to give up 16 points every week. It's just not. It's not good enough to do that. But this offense is going to be fine because we've always seen this formula where you scratch your head and it's usually been a Joe Burrow injury he's trying to overcome. Today, he wasn't very sharp. They didn't get to throw the ball down the field. I think he's really leery of Myles Garrett. I really do. I think he feels him coming, even if he's not coming. And Myles got him a couple of times today too. But yeah, I really was impressed with the defense. Zach talking about, playing with a lead. And I think there's something to that. You have different things you can do. When they had to throw the ball at the end of the game, you can turn Trey Hendrickson loose and he can come after the quarterback and enforce maybe a throw that Cedric Tillman had bounced off his hands and DJ Turner intercepts to seal the deal. And I was impressed with the defense. Do I think it's great? No, I don't, but I think it's better.
Yeah, and I also think that a big difference this year, Skinny, is the contributions of young players. I don't think this defense, Lou Anarumo had acknowledged this in years past. He didn't have a lot of trust in defensive play, young defensive players, rookies, first, second-year players, simply because he didn't think they had the wherewithal, the expertise, the knowledge, the institutional knowledge to go out there and play without thinking. Well, the Bengals don't have any option now. They need Shamar Stewart, Barrett Carter, who came in for an injured Logan Wilson for a little bit today at middle linebacker, and Demetrius Knight, who led the Bengals in tackles in the first half with 8, to fly around the field. Those 3 players played, from my naked eye, from my layperson's eye, up in the press box, looked like they were flying around the field, playing fast, playing quick. And I asked Shamar Stewart that after the game. I asked Jordan Battle about that, DJ Turner. He said, we're going to need them playing like that all season long.
Yeah, and let's not forget Tyson Anderson, while he's not a young player, rookie, had never taken an NFL regular season snap. He had to come in and play some snaps for Geno Stone when he was out for a bit in this game. So you had a lot of guys making NFL debuts and, again, to the naked eye, playing fine. And if you just go by what statistically happened when those guys were in the game, they didn't score in Barrett Carter's drive. They didn't score in Tyson Anderson's drive. And so, you chalk it up to they got some good early reps that maybe they weren't expecting to get.
The Bengals are off to a 1-0 start, not only overall, but in the division, and that matters as well. And usually, Skinny, Zach Taylor, that's a point of emphasis going into the season, is trying to win the division.
Yeah, he's always talked about it. He thinks that's the obviously the best way, the best route to take to get to the Super Bowl. You probably, if you win this division, will wind up with a good seed, maybe even the number 1 seed. So, yeah, I think that is the formula. You're off to a good start by winning on the road in the AFC North, not just winning an AFC North game, but winning on the road in the AFC North. So it takes on double implication.
All right, let's move on to the offense. So the ugly part of this afternoon at Huntington Bank Field. Joe Burrow, he was, what was it? I know 113 yards. Yeah, 14 of 23, 113 yards, 1 touchdown. But the most important stat, Skinny, of the day, the 0 in the interceptions column. You take care of the football. You don't have to have Madden 26 stats to win every game in the NFL.
Yeah, and Zach alluded to that, and we kind of roll our eyes when we hear this. Got to win the turnover margin, and the fact that they didn't beat themselves today on either side of the football. You had some penalties on one drive. I didn't think they were dumb penalties. They just had some penalties on a drive, but for the most part, they were fairly clean during the course of the game. And then the offense, to your point, if you're not going to get yards, last thing you can do is turn the ball over. And I think there's some truth, especially on the road. If you win the turnover margin, it doesn't matter what the other stats say. You're probably, and Zach said, you're probably going to win the game.
Oh, right. Every fan on social media lost their mind midway through the fourth quarter. Actually, kind of late in the fourth quarter, but late in the fourth quarter with about 5 minutes to go. Bengals get the ball at the 20-yard line after a punt into the end zone. And you're thinking, okay, this is a good chance, classic opportunity for the Bengals to go on a 4-minute offense with a 1-point lead, kill off the clock, and get out of Dodge with a ho-hum, 24-16 win. That was not the case. Joe Burrow got sacked not once, not twice, Skinny, 3 straight times, losing 18 yards. They had a 4th and 28, at their own 2-yard line. And after the game, Zach Taylor took responsibility, not for the first 2 necessarily, but he should never have called a pass on that 3rd down.
Yeah, and we probably none of us wrote about this play, and it's an underrated huge play because of what it would have done. Burrow on that 3rd sack actually muscled his way out of the end zone, or it would have been a safety, and that would have been an 18-17 loss. So he ends up making a heck of a play and he got sacked, to your point, but just to keep it from being 2 points the other way.
Yeah, and I just don't understand in that particular situation why you can't throw a screen pass, why you can't get a creative way to get the ball in Chase Brown's hands. And it looked like, and I was concerned about this at halftime, and I thought to myself, okay, they did a great job establishing the run early in the game. I didn't feel like they stuck with it. And I knew, and I had a sense in the second half, the way this was going, they're not going to go back to the running game. They're going to put it in Joe Burrow's hands and try to have him move the team down the field single-handedly.
Yeah, and that drive in particular, to your point, I think they were going to try to take a shot play or a deep play. If it got intercepted, then it's almost like a punt. And to your point, it almost cost you. Yeah, I thought they got in a really good rhythm in the run game early. I mean, obviously you're paying Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins a lot of money, so you want to utilize them as much as possible. But it felt like they got away from it. I don't know if some of that was when Lucas Patrick got hurt and Dalton Risner came in. I know Zach was complimentary of Dalton's play, and I'll take his word at it. But it felt like when Patrick went out, the running game kind of went with it.
Yeah, and that is one of Lucas Patrick's strengths, right? That's what we heard about him coming in. He's one of the best run blocking guards, interior offensive linemen in the NFL. And we probably saw that in that first drive that the Bengals had. They march down the field. They go in for the touchdown, and the Browns come back and tie it. But still, I thought the Bengals did a lot of the things they wanted to do early in the game and kind of got away from it in the second half. When Lucas Patrick went down and Dalton Risner came in, how did you think Risner stood up to the challenge, given the fact he has played very little with this offense?
Well, the 2 sacks of Burrow came with Myles Garrett against Orlando Brown, and maybe a back was supposed to help there. I don't know that, but it came against him. And then there was kind of a blitz, and the McGuire kid got the other sack. So obviously in pass pro, he held up. But they were 7 carries. Chase Brown was 7 carries for 29 yards on the first drive. He was 14 carries, 14 yards the rest of the game. And it's not just Dalton Risner. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to point the finger at him. And I'd have to go back and grind tape for maybe all those guys across the offensive line. But I think he held up pretty good. I mean, it didn't feel like you were looking on every play going, oh gosh, who's over Dalton Risner? Joe's in trouble. It didn't feel it. And that's a strength of his. He's more noted as a pass blocker. I thought he did a good job in that department.
We also saw some things offensively in this game you don't normally see, i.e. Jamar Chase dropping a wide open pass down the left sideline in the third quarter. That would have been a huge first down, and it just went off his chest protector, his chest guard, and his shoulder pads and bounced out of bounds. How did you think Jamar looked in this first game?
I think that they did a good job taking him away. Listen, this is a good defense. I mean, I think we all have to tip our cap. When this defense is healthy, it's good. They have guys who can play man at corner. Jim Schwartz is really creative, the defensive coordinator, with blitz looks he gives and sometimes dumping out of those blitz looks. Obviously, you got the game wrecker Myles Garrett up front. They love the rookie Mason Graham. So this is a really good defense. I think it's a defense that, when it's fully healthy, is one that just matches up well with this offense. I think the more you see these two teams play each other, that's kind of the way it is. I mean, even last year up here, while the Bengals got away with a fairly comfortable win, it was thanks in part to Charlie Jones returning a kickoff. It wasn't the offense. 2 years ago, the opener here was kind of blamed on the rain, right? Joe was also dealing with the calf situation, but they had 140 yards that day. They had 141 today. At some point, you just go, that's a pretty good defense Cleveland's got.
Yeah, no question. And look, this is 2 straight wins in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And to your point, Skinny, this team had trouble like you wouldn't believe between 2018 and 2023 winning in this building. Now they've got 2 straight. You get one of the toughest places to win in the AFC North out of the way, at least psychologically for the Bengals. I'm not saying, I think everybody knows that the Browns are not going to be very good this year. That's not breaking news. But the fact that they get the win out of the way to start the season, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, and I'll go back to the line, man. Oh, give me ugly 1-0 versus, hey, that was sure a fun game to watch, 0-1. We had a lot of those last year, right? I mean, how many times they score in the 30s and lose? That's not fun. I think this is all you wanted. You wanted to get out of here 1-0. End the narrative of slow starts. Again, did you get a little lucky? Probably did. But you also, the defense bowed up down the stretch. And I think that's something you can hang your hat on, because I don't know if you can hang your hat on, but I think it's something you can be bolstered by, because just all the question marks surrounding you. I mean, right. There's some people, even against this Cleveland offense, which is a pedestrian offense for the most part, you still didn't know what to expect. You didn't know if on that very first play of the game, much like a couple preseason games, there'd be a handoff to a running back with a gaping hole and a 26-yard run, right?
Yeah, it's almost like they were playing a little bit of chicken there, a little bit of what's it called when you're showing something false and showing something fake, and bait and switch, if you will, with the defense. That's what it looked like to me from up top in the press box, that this was going to be a different defense. And I think for the most part it was, and I thought they executed all day long very, very well. I want to talk about Chase Brown and the game you had. If you had a chance to talk to him after the game, Skinny, or at least to get your impressions of how important he's going to be to this offense and what he showed and how he showed that here in game number 1. Yeah,
I know Zach Taylor was asked, why did you put the ball in his hands so much? And I think you get the ball in his hands as much as you can. I mean, he proved last year, those 8 starts, what a playmaker he was. And, I think his load should be somewhere between 20 and 25 touches a game. Right. I thought he ran hard. I thought when the holes were there, he made some good moves. He had a couple of plays that I thought he could have bounced and didn't. And, sometimes running backs get in trouble for not following their tracks where they're supposed to go. Sometimes the instincts should take over. And Chase, I think, has really good instincts to bounce it. Maybe today was a day they said, listen, we need you to pick up 4 yards. Even if you have a chance to bounce it to something bigger, just get what we can get. We want to keep good down and distance, not put ourselves in 3rd and 12 and let Myles Garrett come after us. So I think he had a solid game. I know with the numbers show, there was a couple of runs at the end of the game where they're trying to run out the clock basically, and they ran some stretch sweepy type plays, and he lost, I think, 10 of his yards on those 2 carries. I mean, after the first quarter, I felt he was well on his way to a 100-yard day, and it just didn't happen. Again, I don't know if that's Cleveland adjusting, if that was the Lucas Patrick injury, but I'm giving Chase Brown as much touches as I can. I know Jamar Chase is out there. I know T. Higgins is out there, but there's going to be games where they're taken away, and Chase Brown's going to have to be your offensive focal point.
And when do you start concerning yourself with forcing the ball to Jamar? It looked like Joe certainly took some shots in Jamar's direction, even when he was covered by Denzel Ward.
Well,
he's going to have to do that.
Jamar's down there or T's down there somewhere. I mean, sometimes you just throw it up. I mean, he had the look he wanted on that one deep ball you mentioned, Mike, and it was one-on-one coverage. Jamar didn't get a ton of separation, but Joe made a really nice pass, I thought. And Jamar, to your point, dropped it. It doesn't happen very much, but it happened to him in this particular game. We're going to see vintage Jamar Chase before this season is out. This was just one of those games. I think this is one of those matchups that's just really difficult for this offense.
Any storylines that stuck out to you in the Bengals postgame locker room?
No, because I'm writing a column basically of the ugly loss, the pretty win, or the pretty losses. Give me the ugly wins all the time. And I thought this defense showed something. I think Zach showed some trust in them. Remember, 4th and 1 at their own 35 with just over 2 minutes to go, and Zach could have gone for it. I think most Bengals fans are probably screaming, go for it. I guarantee you if this was Bengals defense of mid last season, they would have gone for it because they didn't trust them. He said, the way they were playing, I decided to kick it and put my trust in the defense to go win it, and they did. And 2 plays after they punted came the DJ Turner interception. And, you need to win games like this in this league. I mean, we like the Bengals to win 35-31 and watch Joe Burrow throw all over the place, and it's fun to watch. But like I said, you lost 3 games in the 30s last year. Take a 17-16 win and run to the bank.
All right. I want to point out before we sign off here from Huntington Bank Field, the job the special teams did. Evan McPherson made all of his kicks. No, that wasn't a very long kick, the 35-yard, what proved to be the game-winning field goal. But it was there was pressure associated with that kick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if they don't make that kick, Browns probably hold on and win the game. And Evan goes onto the field knowing that his offense is struggling. They're going to need every single point, and he knocked it right through. Also, William Wagner did a very clean job with the snaps today. And on his final 2 punts, we were all in the press box. I forget who said this, but keep an eye on Will Wagner on these punts because the snaps are going to be critical. And they were both spot on to Ryan Rico. It was interesting because Rico's second to last punt, I think, went into the end zone, and Darren Simmons lost
his mind.
He absolutely did. He was frustrated that somebody, wasn't down there to down it when the ball was, inside the 10-yard line. Then he was talking to Rico apparently about, you can't punt it that far down and not allow us to get down there and cover it, essentially, for all intents and purposes. But the final punt of the day was one of the most important plays of the game.
It was.
He downed the ball. The Bengals downed the Rico punt at the 1-yard line of Cleveland with 30 seconds to go,
and no timeouts.
No timeouts. If that goes awry and it goes off the side of his foot, you're talking about maybe 2 first downs, maybe 3 first downs, and you're in field goal range. 1-yard line with no timeouts. The game was over at that point, and that's what a good punter can do.
No, absolutely. He also had, to your point, William had that snap where he had to snap it to Rico in the end zone, and Rico had to get the punt out of the end zone, and yep. Those are pressure-packed moments. But, yeah, I mean, let's just say that punt goes in the end zone for a touchback, the last one. You're 2 20 yards completions away from being at a 57-yard range. I don't know if this kid could make a 57-yarder. Sure as heck could make a 36-yarder, so I don't know. But to that point, when you're throwing out of the end zone, you're trying to get rid of it quicker, and you literally put them in a black hole at that point. And I'm glad you pointed out that was a very important play.
All right, Skinny, you have your stuff coming up on local12.com. Yep. Your column will be up there on you'll take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day of the week.
Yep.